Hello, nice to meet you,
Yes,
Billy.
thank you.
So it's Billy Doyle, working with a little yoga company, and here at Ampleforth for a retreat.
That's right.
To start off with, could you tell me something about, obviously the Kirby Moorside Natural Health Centre, and with the little yoga company, there are yoga classes.
Yeah.
Could you define what's involved in a retreat as opposed to doing a regular class?
Yeah. I think it gives people the opportunity to go more deeply into the yoga, rather than just an hour and a half after work or something. It's a weekend or longer. Really gives the opportunity for people to let go their usual routine and to just go more deeply into it, especially the aspects of meditation and self-inquiry, which are not often dealt with very much in a weekly yoga class.
Somebody who might be starting off with yoga or thinking about yoga for the first time, what would be the best way to start off? Would it be to really do something like a retreat, or start off with something small? Is there
Well, it's probably best just if you're starting to just find a teacher that suits you. And probably just a weekly class to go into it gradually, to explore slowly. And then I think that's the way most of us begin. And then when we become more interested, it means more to us. We might want to go for something deeper and go for retreats, but you have to find the right teacher for yourself.
And obviously you've had amazing teachers during your life. What would you, if you were someone to say to you, what should I look for in a teacher?
I would say somebody who exudes silence, who's able to bring you to your own silence. Somebody who just lets you be yourself and helps you to explore yourself without imposing things on you. Real teaching comes from silence. You'll feel that in a teacher if it comes from silence, or if it's just from their head, or if it's just from books.
You'll know if you found the right teacher.
I think you will know. It may take time, but you will know.
And does that mean that in a sense you have followers, that people who will, once you found that unique teacher, that one for you, is somebody that you will then go around the world to follow?
I don't like the word follow, because the teacher doesn't want you to follow him or her. The teacher wants you to discover yourself.
Right.
And of course, when I met my particular teacher, yes, I did to some extent go around the world, if you like, several countries with him, and every retreat I had the opportunity. But not because you're obsessed or interested in the teacher, it's just that teacher is able to help you to understand yourself and show you how to see, how to listen, how to look. But you're not there to follow somebody. No.
And does that realisation in a way that you found the right person for you, is that something that comes, or in your particular case, was that something that came gradually over a period of time, or was it almost like an instant affinity?
Yeah. I had 20 teachers before I met who was my teacher. I had many helpful teachers along the way. But then I met somebody called Jean Klein, and there was an immediate affinity, contact, and I knew I'd never need to look for any other teacher. It was something so deep I felt he bypassed my head, my mind, and spoke directly to my heart, if you like. It was just a very deep contact.
And would he feel the same thing about you and with other people participating in his classes, that he feels he would have a special relationship with certain the students as well? Or?
I can't say about me exactly, but the teacher can feel when a student is ready to hear, when the student is mature enough, when you're really asking those questions, when you're really earnest, when it's the most important thing in your life. So it's that which allows the teacher to teach. Because then you're open. You're open to the teaching. You're available. The teacher will see that for sure.
At the same time as you're seeing it, so there's a real connection between. That must be a very special moment.
Yes, indeed. It's a very extraordinary relationship when all your life you have this question, who am I? What's the purpose of life? And you meet a teacher, you meet somebody who has gone through along the same path and is able, through his pedagogical skills, to help you see that as well. And just by their presence. Their presence is their teaching in a way. The silence, just being.
And just going back, I mean, what would you say how the journey began for you in exploring yoga? What was the catalyst that made you want to do that?
I expect it was there from childhood in some ways. I think so. If I look back, I can see there was somebody looking for something on a spiritual level. And those questions were to some extent answered within a kind of Western tradition of Christianity, but then I started reading more about Eastern thought and non-dualism and some of the Eastern teachers, and I immediately resonated with that approach. It was as if I knew it. Of course I didn't know it, but it was as if it was some way already known, that we were all one, that there is only oneness. I went to India when I was 20 and I picked up some books on Hinduism and Indian tradition, and it spoke to me. And after that I got involved a little bit in meditation in London, and then it followed some yoga classes I followed after that. And that was the beginning of a journey. It led me to go back to India several times. But my own teacher I just met in Hampstead in London, where I live. They say the teacher comes to you. So maybe it's true.
Wow, amazing. So we live in an incredibly, well, for some people, incredibly stressful, busy world with lots of demands on us. I would guess, a lot of ridiculous demands that are placed on us. How do you, when you have a lifetime, as you say, starts off in childhood, a lifetime of thinking deeply about oneness and your place, how do you look on what I would probably describe as the craziness around you? Are you baffled by it?
I suppose when we take ourselves to be separate entities, there's a deep hunger, a lack of fulfillment, and we look towards things, objects, activities, experiences to fill up this deep missing side of myself. And so we do many crazy things, we go in many crazy directions, but we're really just looking for wholeness, for happiness. It's just that seeking is often misguided and leads us often, as you say, in neurotic ways. But one day we see that this obsession with objects, with things, with experiences, doesn't really bring us to fulfillment. And then there's a stop. And we're open to something deeper, I would say. We learn that the things of the world are not going to bring us what we really want. But of course it takes a certain discrimination, maturity to see through all that. And that takes time.
And how do you get that, in a sense, a sort of a message across to people that, that they, maybe you don't feel you need to, I don't know, but the sort of, you're exploring superficial things, and actually there are far more important things that you should be focused on.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one, not obviously the only answer, but this is one. How do you feel that you can put that across to people?
I would say by asking people to really look at their experiences, what they're doing, what they're aiming for. Does that really bring what they're looking for? Does that really bring them to a place of fulfillment? To really see the intransience of so many things. So I think it's to ask people to really look at themselves, their thinking processes, their bodies, asking them to become more intimate with themselves. Because so much of our activities are automatic, mechanical. And so it's taking time, giving space, just to look at yourself more closely. Nobody can do that for you, but somebody can help you, perhaps, to see the processes involved. Really point out that no object is ever going to bring you what you're looking for. That's something incredible to learn, because you really see that no thing, no object is ever going to give you what you're really looking for. Then all that extroverted energy that goes towards things, relationships, experiences, whatever they are, comes to a halt. And that's the time when deeper questions can come, a deeper understanding can come, a more inward understanding.
And do you try and provoke that process of thought in people around you who you might be seeing? Even though they might not be coming to you, you come across them in day-to-day life, you see the stressed executive in the queue for the taxi, the mother's stressed with the children, Do you ever feel that you can just go and quietly talk to them? Is there that, or is it more people coming to you?
There can be indication that happens. When you feel perhaps they're ready for somebody to show them. But perhaps more of the time it's people who will come and ask.
In terms of your life, I bet there isn't a life outside your work in yoga, but I would be interested to explore how it impacts on your daily life, the situation of how you travel, your diet, your home life, etc., etc. Could you give us a bit of an insight to that?
Yeah. Well, I live very simply.
I imagine so.
I eat basically vegetarian, I like a lot of raw food. I like a lot of space and time in my life to do things without being in a hurry. I like going for walks, meeting friends, but I don't like to have a complicated life. It's just to appreciate each moment. Sometimes, yoga teachers will say, you do this and you'll have a wonderful experience. But just each moment is wonderful. When you're not looking for something, when you're not anticipating things, just to breathe, just to be, whatever you're doing. Nothing is missing there. So if you're drinking a cup of tea, you're just drinking a cup of tea. If you're going for a walk, you're just going for a walk. And you're just in the moment. There's nothing missing.
And they might say to you, how would I find? And how would I find the time? There's never enough hours in the day, really. I've got too many things to do as it is. And whenever I'm eating my meal, I'm rushing it.
Yeah.
I guess you would say you need to reassess where you are.
Yeah. I think when these questions, these deeper questions, what's the real purpose of life, who am I, becomes more pertinent, you do begin to simplify your life. You begin to find you're not running after so many things. But of course, I realize as well that modern life is very demanding. If you have children and a busy job, there are all those things to do. But I would say appreciate those spaces. They may be very small spaces, just those small spaces, even between thoughts, even between breaths. Just be aware of, at the end of the out-breath, there's just a moment of letting go of silence. When you've been thinking of 100 things, there's a moment when the mind is just finished for a moment. I would say be aware of those moments. So when you go to bed at night, just take a moment to completely let go of your body. When you wake up in the morning, before you get busy, just appreciate that moment of silence before everything starts. So there are these moments, and when we begin to appreciate them, they tend to draw us to those moments. They become more important. begin to make space for that. And of course I would say, question, why are you so busy?
Yeah.
What is the motivation?
Yeah.
What do you really want? As we talked about earlier, it's becoming more intimate with yourself, seeing the motivations, why I'm doing this, why I'm doing that. When that happens, we're never just in the moment. We're forever anticipating and running after something down the road. And we're always down the road, we're always in the future, so what's the point? We come to the end of our life and wonder whether it's all gone.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because I can really see that in what you're saying about always thinking about the future, the things that need to be done. And then at the other end you've got, like for me for example, a very elderly mother who's doing the opposite and is reflecting on the past a lot and very unhappy with the present because of her mobility problems, her ill health, and the fact that she's not got much more to life. So you have those two extremes.
And what you also begin to understand is to act in a more free way, not to act from the me, from the ego, but just let it be pure action. So apparently you can be quite busy all day, but there isn't a feeling I'm busy. There's just activity, there's just doing. And one learns to act without carrying the actions, without being identified with the doer. Let's just do. Let's just act. And then...
So you need to explain that to me a bit more, I'm
Yeah.
not really with you on that.
Yeah. When we identify with a separate individual, and I take myself to be John or Mary, that identification brings in its train a whole lot of other aspects. Taking myself to be separate invites fear, defense, desire for freedom, desire for something great. So when we identify with being a tiny speck in the universe, which is what the individual takes himself to be, a body-mind is, our actions, I would say, come from the past. They come from this identification, call it the ego. So, and they leave a train of reactions. I mean, you could use the word karma, because you're identified. And so our actions are not completely clear. They're not completely from a feeling of freedom. And inevitably an accumulation of tension and resistance is covered. When you're free of being somebody, it's just acting. You don't feel, I'm acting, it's just acting. It's just thinking. You don't feel I'm thinking, it's just thinking. There's talking, but there's nobody here that feels they're talking, there's just talking. There's just responding to life. But when everything comes from the ego center, from being a separate mind body, that response to life is not clear. It's dependent, it's acting from the past, it's not spontaneous. So when we're really free of ourselves, there's spontaneous action. And we don't carry it. We go to bed at night without carrying everything in our head. It's just acting. But there's not a feeling of I'm acting. So the action is not out of a set of patterns from your past. Conditioned acting, I would say your acting is free of an actor. We don't exhaust ourselves, I would say, as well. So we might be leading a busy life, but there's freedom in that action.
It's quite a discipline to learn, is it?
I don't like the word discipline. It comes through understanding. It's through understanding that things fall away from us. The patterns, the identifications. These really happen by themselves. When they're ready to happen, they happen. The mind can't step in and will them away. And if you make it into a discipline, you'll just make yourself into another kind of pattern, another rigidity. That's not freedom. A disciplined mind is not a free mind. Disciplined body is not a free body. But with understanding, things are given up without somebody giving them up. They no longer have any relevance. The ideas I had about myself in the past, they fall away. You don't need to push them away. You just see them. You just see them. See. It's the seeing, the clarity of seeing that helps to free.
Would you say now at this point in your life that you've achieved that freedom, or are there things that you're still as an individual working on?
There was nothing to achieve because my teacher explained to me that what you are. It's there. It was always there. It's just that we superimpose upon our real nature a fantasy, a self-image that is just mind. It's just a projection, an illusion. So one has to see through that illusion. And when you really see through it, it falls away. It's gone. There's nothing else. You find there's just being, there's just openness, there's just freedom. But there's nobody who's free. There's nobody who's achieved anything. That somebody was just an illusion. So there's nobody who says I'm free. Because there's no I there anymore of that nature. There's just presence. And everything is in that presence. I mean, one knows this particular body, this particular personality, if you like. But you no longer take yourself to be that personality, that particular body. It's just another expression in awareness. But so is the sky, and so are the clouds, and so is everything, the chairs and everything else. It's all in your freedom, in your presence. John Klein used to say, my teacher, it's beautiful to be nobody. Yes, that's it. Without luggage, without the past, just living in the present, that's all.
And we'd be all a lot better off. for doing that.
Absolutely. We would be in a world of harmony and of love.